Welcome to Witchdraft. This is Jason Mark Anderman. Today we're going to dive into everything you'd ever want to know about a consulting services agreement from the perspective of the vendor actually providing the consulting services. First and foremost, a lot of times people just don't spell out exactly what the services consist of. This is extremely important in avoiding any kind of dispute with your customer later. A lot of times people just say, to be provided or to be decided, or they'll say the services are one sentence, for instance, going to provide you with manufacturing advice, for instance. You really want to make sure you have a thoughtful discussion with your customer as exactly to what services will be provided for a given project, and that way you can avoid any fights later or disagreements as to what was done. When you can pull out a document and spell out exactly what the services consisted of, that short circuits any kind of disagreement on most situations. Same thing goes true for deliverables. So instead of the services, instead of the advice you're providing, for instance, deliverables really are kind of the tangible results of the services, what exactly you're providing. So for instance, if you're going to help a customer better understand their manufacturing system and provide a written report with suggested improvements, the meeting and understandings, the services, the report itself, that's the deliverable. Deadlines. You want to make sure that you have a definite deadline. You can specify exactly what it's going to be. One of the things I like to do is a certain number of days after the effective date of the contract. So for instance, 90 days after the effective date. That way you don't have to constantly update the actual dates of the deadlines during the contract negotiations if they take a while. Assumptions. Very important if you need the customer to do certain things to allow you to do your job. For instance, providing key sign-off by expert employees at the customer that you need in order to move forward on each phase of the project. Have to specify that right here and make that a condition of you having to meet your deadlines that you've agreed to. Fees. All different kinds of ways you can slice and dice the fees. You can do a flat fee where you just say, hey, you're going to pay me $5,000 for doing this particular project. You can do the rate fee, which everyone's familiar with, hourly rate or the daily rate. In each case, you want to make sure, though, that if you have multiple people in your personnel, that you're really specifying exactly which rate for which personnel member. Guaranteed maximum fee is a good tool for selling. Basically, that's equal to the lesser of the flat fee or the total of the hourly rate or daily rate. What that does is it provides an upper limit that gives the customer budget certainty as to how much the overall project is going to cost. Another thing you can do is just charge a flat fee for each service or each deliverable and describe the service or describe the deliverable and the associated fee. Once that's completed, the fee is owed. Same thing can go for achieving milestones. So for instance, finishing a specification, getting sign-off from the customer on the specification, providing a phase one of developing a particular report. All those kinds of things you could spell out as you achieve the milestones, what fee gets paid. Another important thing is to really make sure you figure out the payment schedule. This comes up a lot with flat fees, right? So you want to make sure that you've spelled out exactly what you're owed and when you're owed it. Common way to do it is to get 3 payments where you get a third of the flat fee on the effective date of the contract, a third on when you provide the deliverables, and a third on when they're accepted by the customer. Or if you want to do something that's a little more friendly to you as the vendor, a third on effective date, a third on when you ship, and a third on receipt. Another thing you can do is kind of just say, hey, I'll charge you by the month. You can also say, I'm going to get paid the overall flat fee once the customer receives it or accepts it. And as we talked about before, you can get paid on achieving milestones. Conditions are extremely important, and this really is where you nail down exactly other things. Are you going to give the customer's affiliates the same excellent fees that you offered this particular customer? Are you going to give this particular customer as good a deal as you give anyone else? If so, will it be just for similar sales with similar volume levels or overall pricing? And you might want to think a bit about any assumptions as to what the customer needs to do in order for you to give these great fee conditions. You also might want to say, hey, if you pay me early, pay me within 10 days of you getting the invoice, I'll give you a 2% discount. Might help you with your cash flow. And then, of course, it's extremely important to make sure that you get reimbursed for your expenses. Those are pretty much the issues you care about in a consulting services agreement as the vendor. Thanks for your time, and have fun using Witchdraft.